book besties? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Delaney if you are new here, and we are going to be doing a little mid-year wrap-up of my top 10 books of 2024 so far. So at the time I'm filming this, I have read 85 books this year, and I'm about to finish 2 more. I'm like at the very end of 2 books right now, but at the time I'm filming this, I have read 85 books so far, and these are the 10 that I would recommend you definitely think about reading. Add them to your TBR, add them to your Amazon wish list, add them to your cart, whatever you need to do. Get your hands on these 10 books because they are my favorites that I've read so far this year. If you follow me on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere, you know that I take my 5-star ratings extremely seriously, like way too seriously. And all of these books are 4.5 stars or higher, which is a huge indicator of how great I think they are. I will say I tried my best to order them from number 10 to number 1, like actually put them in chronological order. Put them in order from my least favorite to my favorite within the top 10. And it feels wrong to even call number 10 my least favorite because one of my favorite books of the year is obviously always a favorite, but you know what I mean. I digress. I tried to put them in order from 10 to number 1, but some of them are so dang close that you could like flip-flop their placement and it would still kind of check out. So take the ordering with a grain of salt, but I did do my best to order them from least favorite to most favorite. Most favorite. Top favorite. Favoritist. Not favoritist. Anywho, let's jump into the books because we have 10 phenomenal books to talk about. And when I get excited about books, Lord knows I get chatty. So for the sake of keeping this video under 3 hours long, let's jump in. Starting off at number 10, I have The Wishing Game, and this book like exceeded all my expectations. I had heard pretty good things about this book going in, but I really didn't know what to expect. Like I read the blurb, and even reading the blurb I was a little bit confused like what I was getting into. I loved it. I loved it so much. This is just like a great feel-good general fiction with like a sprinkle of fantasy, a sprinkle of romance, emphasis on friendship and family dynamics. It just like had so many deep themes and messages. I would recommend this book to literally anybody. It was just great. I have no other words. It was just like a really great read. It got me thinking, it kept me entertained, it was heartwarming and feel good while also being deep and emotional. It was phenomenal. I think that I will read anything by this author now. Meg Schaefer, is that right? I think I will read anything by her now. I just fell in love with this. My first book by her and I absolutely adored it. Then at number 9 is another author that if you follow me, you know I adore. I have The Rom-Commers by Katherine Center, and this book I was a little bit hesitant going in because obviously Katherine Center is like up there on my top favorite authors of all time, like my auto buy author list. But the Hollywood trope in a book is not normally my favorite, and this is screenwriters writing in Hollywood. So I was like, not sure how much I'll love this. I loved it. The banter and the wit in Katherine Center's books is so amazing. It had me crying on one page and then actually laughing out loud on the other. I'm just obsessed with this. So this is definitely a must-read new release if you are a fan of like romance or like women's fiction, that kind of genre. I would highly recommend this. Like I said, we have that Hollywood trope. We also have Grumpy Sunshine, forced proximity, and kind of like a workplace romance as well. It has depth, it has levity, it has it all. Amazing. Then at number 8, I have Powerless by Lauren Roberts, and this book, it makes me so happy because I've never been like super invested in a fantasy book, and I want to be a fantasy girly so bad. And this book is like the first instance where I felt kind of like a fantasy girly, like I was invested in this book. If you are looking for a perfect beginner fantasy, I would highly recommend this because the emphasis on romance is very strong and is very like romance heavy. Definitely a lot of romance going on within a fantasy world. So it's like a great intro if you're typically more of like a general fiction or a romance reader wanting to start to like dip your toe into fantasy. Perfect intro. I absolutely love this. I loved this. I loved Powerful, the novella, and Reckless. Book 2 comes out in a few days and I cannot contain my excitement. Like that's how you know it's a good book. When it's a fantasy and I'm counting down the days to the new release sequel, I'm so excited. I want this book to be the turning point for my fantasy journey. Absolutely amazing. Would highly recommend. Then book number 8, I actually don't own the physical copy, but I so wish I did. The Collected Regrets of Clover. This follows a death doula who, that's Clover, and she walks people through like their final moments of life. The themes in this book about relationships and friendships and love and the meaning of life, like, oh my gosh, I read this book really soon after I lost someone very close to me. So like at the very start of like in the heart of my grieving journey. And it just hit so hard. I annotated the heck out of this book on my Kindle I wish I could read this book over and over and over again. It was amazing. This feels like a life changer type of book, like where you read some of the messages and some of the themes and you're like, I will never not think about that now for the rest of my life. I can't say enough great things. I talk about this book way too much, but you already know I love it. Highly would recommend. Then at number 6, I have A Love Letter to Whiskey, and I am normally not a fan of a miscommunication trope in a romance. This is miscommunication through and through, and I loved it. It was a 5-star read for me. Something about the raw, vulnerable emotion in this book, like, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Like, right person, wrong time, friends to lovers, just like wanting so badly to make it work with somebody, but life circumstances just keep getting in the way and it's just never the right time. Like, I don't know if it's just because it like hit close to home or if it was the way the writing was done, but miscommunication, a trope that I normally don't love, I absolutely loved, and I ended up giving this book 5 stars. I started at a 4.5 and then I couldn't stop thinking about it and I was like, this is definitely a 5-star read. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. If you are going to read this, I highly recommend getting this like 5th anniversary edition. If you go on Goodreads, you might see that there are 2 different editions. Highly recommend getting this one because this has a bonus novella and bonus content that, take my word for it, you're really gonna want it. This is a great book, a great romance, lots of great quotes, made me cry, 100% made me cry on multiple occasions. It's so good, so good. Okay, this is where the list gets like really, including Love Letter to Whiskey from here on, like it just gets really close. Like all of these books are neck and neck and it's hard for me to distinguish like a clear tier ranking of them, so just remember that until we get to the top 2. My top 2 are very clear, very solid. Then I have Just for the Summer. This is the 3rd book in the Part of Your World series and I am obsessed with this. Please ignore the Target sticker. This is actually a new copy that I just got, the bonus Target edition. My ARC copy is back there. Ignore it. Just ignore the sticker, okay? I need to work on it. This book is amazing. I just think that anything that Abby Jimenez writes is just going to be absolutely flawless, and this was no exception. Specifically her Part of Your World series, all of those books are within the 5-star range. Part of Your World was like a 4.5 for me. Yours truly was an easy 5-star. This is a 5-star for me as well. Just so good. If you are an acts of service person, if your love language is acts of service, you must read this because Justin, our male main character, is an acts of service king. He is like the ideal golden retriever book boyfriend. I loved him so much. This is another book that was really fun and lighthearted and made me laugh, and also definitely had me in tears. Like, it is so emotional and so light at the same time. I don't know how she juggles both things, but she does it beautifully, and this book was absolutely phenomenal. Then for the next 2, I'm cheating just a little bit because I'm actually choosing 2 books, but since they're from the same series, I'm counting them as one. So in my number 4 slot, I have 2 books from the Chestnut Springs series. That is Heartless and Reckless. This is book 2 and book 4. So definitely read the series in order, but I will say if you don't love the first book, please stick it out because the first book, Flawless, I was not convinced. I was like, everyone talks about the Chestnut Springs series and it's not living up to the hype. And then I read Heartless and I was like, oh, I get it. This is a very Grumpy Sunshine single dad nanny trope, which isn't normally my gig, but oh my gosh, phenomenal. And then this has a couple tropes that I don't necessarily want to mention because I don't want to spoil anything, even though it's on the back of the book. Some people say like this trope is a spoiler, so I'm just gonna say this is like also reverse Grumpy Sunshine, kind of like the girl is grumpy, and miscommunication, which again, not my favorite tropes. Another 5-star read. Elsie Silver is pure magic. I'm obsessed with the Chestnut Springs series. Like, if I could pack my bags and move to Chestnut Springs and have dinner with the Eaton family, I would do that tomorrow. Like, literally, get me my suitcase. I'm on my way. I think it's in Canada. Isn't Chestnut Springs in Canada? My family's in Canada. I'm heading up north. Bye. I'm just obsessed with this series, with the found family, with the female main characters in this series. Elsie Silver writes the most phenomenal women. They are strong and powerful and gentle and beautiful and all the best qualities in the world. I love them. I love them so much. Highly recommend checking out this series. The series as a whole is like a small town cowboy bull rider series, and then each book follows its own individual couple and has its own individual tropes. I do have that all broken down, like what tropes to expect and all my rankings and everything on my TikTok. So if you want to know even more, you can definitely go check that out. Then cheating again, but for the last time, I promise, I have 2 books in my number 3 slot, and that is the first 2 books in the Windy City series. So I have Mile High and The Right Move. Mile High is a professional hockey romance, and this is Evan Zanders and Stevie. I'm obsessed. Like, I love them so much. So many people don't like Evan Zanders because his whole character is like he puts on a playboy persona. Like that's how he presents to the media as a professional hockey player. It's kind of like his image that he's branded as. But deep down, he's like such a softie, and I just fell for him. And Stevie was so beautiful in this book. The way she was written, she struggles with body image, and as someone who has struggled with that as well, I just found her so relatable, and like the way that her body image was impacting their romantic relationship was like I felt so seen, and it's not something I see talked about nearly enough. So I was like, kudos to you, Liz Tomford, for covering this. I just love this book. I loved it so much. Definitely a spicier read, but also it has such great romance to lead up to the spice where it doesn't feel like it's just smutty to be smutty, you know what I mean? Like I like when there's romance and a connection before the spice, and this definitely has it. Same for book 2. So this follows Stevie's brother is the male main character and her best friend is the female main character. So it's like a best friend's brother romance, forced proximity, grumpy sunshine, and kind of like opposites attract as well. I love this. Like Ryan Shea is also an ideal book boyfriend. Evan Zanders and Ryan Shea, like they can do no wrong. This is a professional basketball romance. Oh, I love it. I love it so much. This is another really great example of acts of service. Like if you're an acts of service love language person, just for the summer and the right move, you need to read it. Book 3, Caught Up, in this series is also really good. It wasn't in the 5-star range for me, so I left that out, but also a really great book. That's a professional baseball player romance, and it's a single dad nanny trope. And book 4 comes out in July, so I'm so excited. I just love this series so much. Okay, coming in book number 2, I have Magnolia Parks, Into the Dark, and before I get questions, yes, you do have to read the series in order. I am so sorry to break it to you. This is the 5th book in the series, but trust me, it's so worth it. The books leading up to it were all phenomenal as well. They are all 4 stars and above. I think from book 3 forward was 5 stars for me. I love this series, but this book in particular, I was a wreck. I was destroyed. Can I read you the dedication of this book? Just hear me out, just the dedication. To anyone whom the more stingy parts of this book resonate with, anyone who's grieved or is grieving or has lost or is losing, anyone who worries about the black empty nothingness, everything is going to be okay, okay? Just like Hastings, why do you do it to me? I annotated the heck out of this book. I cried, I laughed, I fell in love. This is another series where they all just feel like family. I'm obsessed, absolutely obsessed. This book, oh, I'm a Magnolia and BJ girl to my core. I love the Daisy Hates books as well, don't get me wrong, but I'm a Magnolia girly, and this book just did it for me. It's phenomenal. One of my favorite books of the year, easily one of my favorite books of all time. Amazing, 6 stars. And then my number 1 favorite book of the year so far, you're gonna guess it, The Nightingale, ladies and gentlemen. This book, how did I put off reading this for almost 2 years? I was so scared because it's a thick book and it's historical fiction, and I thought I wouldn't understand it. I thought I would be lost and confused and bored. Not at all. It started a little bit slow. I will say that. Started a little bit slow, but trust the process, because the ending, the last third of this book, I had to take breaks because I couldn't see through the tears. For anyone who is unfamiliar with this book, this is a World War II historical fiction novel. Oh, if I think about the ending of this book enough, I will cry. Like, I know exactly what tab it is. If I open it and I read it right now, there will be tears. I'm not even joking you. Like, it was that impactful. I'm just gonna leave this here. I've never cried so hard at a book in my entire life, and I feel like that just sums up all you need to know about this book. I cannot wait to dive into more Kristen Hanna books. I have so many on my TBR. The Women, The Great Alone, Firefly Lane, True Colors. Like, I have so many that I want to get to. But as of now, this being the only Kristen Hanna book I have read, I am a Kristen Hanna fan as of now, and this book is maybe my favorite book of all time. That's the biggest statement in the world. For so long, I said it was To Kill a Mockingbird. It might be this. It might be this. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not going to make that bold of a statement yet, but I'm going to say it might be. It just might be. All right, book besties. So those are the top 10 books of the 85 that I have read so far this year. I definitely want to know what your favorite book of 2024 has been so far. Leave a comment down below telling me what the best book that you have read so far this year is. But I think that is it for today's video. I do feel like I did a pretty good job keeping it short and sweet. Lord knows we can get passionate when I'm talking about my favorite book, so I feel like I did a pretty good job, not gonna lie. But yes, please leave a comment telling me your favorite book of the year so far. Make sure you follow me on all the things so we can be book besties on all the platforms. Everything is linked down below. You can also join my book club. It's also down there. And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss future videos. I will catch you in the next one. Bye, book besties.